How effective are you going to be when you fight and you're not fighting from a position of victory or position of hope?
They think guys are abstaining. They're not. It's because they just can't get that access.
Almost all of us were shown some form of pornography at a young age.
They're going to help you manage all of this data, but it's really an access point.
What was the most influential sources to the Founding Fathers? 34% of all the quotes they identified came out of the Bible.
We have accounted for every single terrorist cell that we know that hates America have crossed over.
Have they been captured?
No.
We're now in a war of narratives versus the truth.
For COVID, that treatment strategy came to me as an answer to prayer in a dream.
25 to 47% of all trafficking is familial.
Right.
Now it's
In the U.S.
In the U.S. Now it's the caregiver. So yes, let's highlight the evil. We do. But let's speak hope. Chinese migrants flooding across the U.S. border. Why? Why now? Why so many? And why are most of these migrant Chinese coming across the border single men, military-age men, coming across at times with designer luggage, watches on their wrists, money in their pockets, making videos and selfies on both sides of the border, messaging back home the steps to take. What does TikTok have to do with this? What is Secretary Mayorkas doing? What is the Biden administration doing? And who is behind a lot of this stuff and so much more? This episode is about the invasion on the border with a particular lens into the CCP, which would be the Communist Chinese Party. Before we go any further, I want to thank Patriot Mobile. Thank you, Patriot Mobile, for being a great sponsor of the show. Thank you, Patriot Mobile, for being the only Christian conservative cell phone provider in the United States. They will take some of the portion of the money you pay every month for your cell phone service, and they will invest it back into causes that you care about, such as fighting human trafficking with us, turning school boards to turn away from exploiting children in the classroom, securing the border, fighting for babies in the womb, etc., etc. Patriot Mobile, check them out. Go to patriotmobile.com/bottom line. Mention bottom line so you get free activation, or call them and mention me that I sent you and the bottom line, and you will get free activation. Also, Glenn Story and the team there tell me that they will buy you out of your contract. You can keep your phone, keep your number, transfer it over. And the good thing about Patriot Mobile is that they work off of all the major cell phone towers. So the service is fantastic. I use them myself. I love it. So check out patriotmobile.com/bottom line. China. We have to go back and look at the Chinese Revolution. And you cannot talk about the Chinese Revolution. There's days you should look into this where people are censored. People like Tom Cruise. People on a film set wearing a jacket, being pro-Taiwan on the back of the jacket, being told you're kicked off the film set. Hollywood has sworn an allegiance to China. Why is that? Because the Shanghai Film Fund funds most of what Hollywood is doing. There's massive Chinese investment in Hollywood. We understand that some of our most major theater networks are owned by Chinese CCP affiliates. And understand this, there is no such thing as an independent major Chinese corporation. Our version of the stock exchange, Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies. If you are a major company like Cento Steel in China and you are independent, quote unquote, for those of you who are not watching, air quotes, you belong to the CCP. How do they do that? The CCP controls the majority of the boards of directors. They decide the direction of the company. Yes, maybe the CEO is not a direct affiliate of the CCP, but he takes direction from the CCP. Why is that important? We have to parlay this and put all this together and understand what's truly happening at the border. 18 months ago, we were at the border. And we've been there now, I think, 11 times. But 18 months ago, if you remember, Joe Biden, that's right, the current president of the United States, flew children on unmarked Boeing 737s from the Laughlin Air Force Base in between Del Rio and Eagle Pass is Laughlin Air Force Base. This is an Air Force base where we train our 22 Raptor pilots. Okay, some of the best of the best. It's not a commercial Air Force base. You can't fly commercial airliners in there, but Biden did. He loaded children on these airplanes. We were there. We shot footage. Then it became apparent that, hey, by the way, the ground you're standing on, American soil, around that area, Laughlin Air Force Base, 142,000 acres of land belongs to China. Now, they purchased it through a Chinese billionaire who swore that he did not have an allegiance to the CCP, but then when we dug into it, he does have an allegiance to the CCP. He takes directive from the CCP. I want Becca on the team here to pull something up for you. I want to show you it's not just Chinese migrants flooding across the border illegally, but it's also China buying U.S. farmland at a rapid rate. It's not just Bill Gates. And then you need to look into Bill Gates' relationship with China. And why is it that foreign entities are buying U.S. farmland? No, it's not just because they don't have farmland and they're hungry. It's a territorial play. I'll show you how China did this throughout the continent in Africa, and they're being allowed to do it in the United States. And yes, even in Texas, which brings the question, it beckons the question of, well, what is Greg Abbott and the land commissioner in Texas doing? What are we doing? Not the current land commissioner, the previous land commissioner that sold land to the CCP around an Air Force base and continue to sell land to the CCP. And they can say, well, it's not the CCP. It is. You are not a billionaire in China without swearing allegiance to the CCP, without having directive to their flag and their state. I want you to look at this map. Dan, if we can go full screen. It's a little fuzzy, but let's do it. How China is buying up farmland across America. Look at the acreages. I said 140 something. It's now 159,640 acres of land in Texas, 13,848 in Florida, 9,000, close to 10,000 in Arizona, close to 7,000 in California, 32,000 acres of land in Utah, Colorado, Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, Illinois, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, North Carolina. Look at the South. Look at Middle America, what we call flyover states. Look at the cropland. Now, if we were to lay over a map, over this map, which is the Bill Gates map, and then you parlay Bill Gates' relationships with China, and you sprinkle in a little bit of the Gates Foundation and the George Soros Foundation, you start to understand that, wait a second, there's a land grab going on by China. What China did historically in Africa, and I'm from Africa, okay, is they purchased land, soil, topsoil. But what you don't know is they negotiate for the mineral rights under that soil. And then they start using extortion and bribery and corruption. And they show up with bags of money. And I've witnessed it with my own eyes. I've got the videos on my phone where they go to presidents and African presidents and they open up coffers of American dollars. And they bribe and they coerce and they force their way in for people to sell assets. They look for the one politician that's the linchpin. They bribe them. We've got politicians in every house, in every Senate, in every state that are working with, in cahoots with Chinese agenda, Chinese propaganda, whether it's through a businessman or through an American citizen like a Bill Gates. But it's furthering the Chinese agenda within the United States. Now, if you're going to have a land grab, you're going to control farmland. Why is it important to control food? Because you control people through food. Then you need people of your culture. You need people of your language to operate that for you. Because the Americans, you and me, The taxpayer, the citizen, is definitely not going to dance when the Chinese piper plays the pipe. No, it's the federal government. It's the Joe Bidens of the world. It's the Mansions. It is the Lindsey Grahams, the Mitch McConnells. It's the rhinos of the world that will dance, that'll say, hey, as long as you keep me in power, we don't really care who we answer to. Well, what about the American people? Well, I mean, that's an afterthought. You've been an afterthought. So you must bring in people of your tribe. Do you know that in South Africa right now, not only is there a massive influx of Chinese migrants that work as operatives of the CCP, but they're actually training the South African police force to speak Mandarin. They're training South African law enforcement to defend Chinese assets in their language. Why would they do any different now? They've done it over 40 different countries in Africa. They've bought presidents. They've stood up cities. They consume. They do not care about your culture, the American way, our Constitution. So there's an argument. Becca, if you can pull up the argument about the visas issued in China and the numbers that we just pulled up recently, as she pulls that up. And I'll show you the rebuttals and the arguments of, well, why? Here's the reason that they would say why. Go down the other article before we do this one. It's a different article that talked about how many visas got issued. The two sections where I asked, highlight the second section for me, if you can pull that up. While she's pulling that up, why would they change now? Why would they change their ways? Here it is. Why more Chinese migrants? Who's this article by the way? Can you scroll up for me? This is this was a 60 Minutes article on TikTok. That's right. So Chinese migrants, some with the help of TikTok, have become the fastest growing group trying to cross the U.S. southern border. Well, let's just hang there for a second. The CCP, in our world of fighting human trafficking, outlawed pornography in China. By the way, you can't decide how many children you're going to have. You cannot jaywalk. You get a social score. You talk about ESG score. Try a social score where they score you as a citizen and they decide what you pay for healthcare and where you can and can't go. Can you own a car? Can you own a house? Can you have a child? Is it a boy or a girl? They decide everything because they score you. But TikTok can be filled with porn and be in the U.S. It is a mechanism to erode and corrupt American culture. TikTok we have is not the TikTok they find in China. Your teenagers watch free, gross, graphic porn on TikTok, the how-tos of pornography, self-exploitation, but not in China. They're using TikTok to train Chinese, as you see in this video, how to cross the border illegally. And we celebrate TikTok. It's welcome here. You've seen Josh Hawley, Ted Cruz, Marsha Blackburn, Chip Roy, some of the House and Senate members saying, hey, wait a second. There's a spy organization that's on every single phone of every Gen Zer in this country. Now go down for me, if you don't mind. Back up. Right there. Why more Chinese? Now, here's the rebuttal from the Biden administration and what they say. Why more Chinese migrants are turning up at the U.S. Mexico border? For years, millions of Chinese entered the U.S. with a visa that allowed them to visit. Pause. Yeah, everybody needs a visa to come here to visit. It's a B1, B2 visitor's visa. And if you overstay that visa, the law says you get deported or you have voluntary departure. Look at my episode with Victor Avila. And please hit the subscribe button. Get this information out there. We are being blocked and shadow banned. So we need your voice to help us get this information out there. Don't just watch it. Share it, please. Go look at the Victor Avila episode. That's on Rumble and wherever you can find it. I think YouTube. And go see about visa process, immigration law. It's not all deportation, voluntary departure, overstays, etc. The argument is that we normally in 2016, which was the Trump administration, the transition from Obama to Trump, issued 2.2 million visas, temporary, did I say temporary visitor visas, B1, B2 temporary visas to the U.S. That number under Joe Biden got dwindled down to 160,000 visas. Well, you would say, well, does that not mean that Biden does not want Chinese to come? He doesn't have to issue the visas. He opened the border. He's running a shadow government, a shadow immigration system called CBP1, the app, bringing people in quasi under legal immigration. Immigration law gets changed in Congress. There's been no immigration reform in Congress, no new law in Congress. He just went and launched an app where people can process and ask for asylum on an app, where they train them on TikTok how to get the app, or they use Catholic Relief Mission in the Darien Gap to tell them download the app, ask for asylum. They grant asylum, not through a U.S. embassy or a consulate general, which is the way it should be done. No, just an app. They get granted asylum. They discard their name, where they're from. They pick up a new fictitious name, a country that they're from. They show up at the border, and now they don't even have to walk through the river. Now they go through the POE, the legal point of entry, which is the bridge. And they walk across because I walked with them. I get stopped 4 times with my U.S. passport. The CBP1 app guy who has lied, who's coming in illegally because that app doesn't make it legal, because it's not a legal immigration system. It's a shadow operation by Joe Biden, which is a fraud. They got stopped once. They scan a barcode and they're in. I was asked, where were you in Piedras Negras? What did you do? Are you bringing anything in? Are you declaring anything? Then I was checked by TSA at the airport. Although I have clear and pre-check, they don't get checked because they're running under a shadow operation. So the border's wide open. TikTok is training the Chinese how to come in. A paragraph a little lower that I wanted to highlight, Rebecca. Which one was that? Oh, no, that was it. Let's go up a little bit more, that gray area. The migrants knew about the hole in the fence. So this article talks about a particular hole in the fence. It's real time. They knew about the hole in the fence, the hole, the gap, which border to go to, all through TikTok. That, by the way, they get the information from within the United States because the cartel runs both sides of the border. Because Secretary Mayorkas, the impeached one, if we can go to that, please, finally the House grew some moxie and actually moved to impeach this guy. That's after we now calculate close to 20 million migrants have entered the country illegally only in the Joe Biden term of presidency. House impeached. This is CNN, okay? It's not a conservative outlet. That, of course, is Speaker Johnson. If it was not for the current speaker, he would not have been impeached. McCarthy wouldn't do it. McCarthy had all the information. McCarthy said, well, do we have enough information? Do we have enough information on Hunter? Do we have enough information on Joe Biden? Do we have enough information on Mayorkas? The answer was yes, we do. In comes Speaker Johnson. There's an impeachment. House impeaches Alejandro Mayorkas, first cabinet secretary to be impeached in almost 150 years. So he's impeached. Why? Because they broke the law. What laws did they break, Jaco? Immigration law, federal law. They're criminals. The illegals are coming across the border. It's illegal. They're allowed to come across. The presidency, the White House, and the cabinet is forcing servicemen and women on the border to do things that they don't want to do. The suicide rate of border members are through the roof. 2 weeks ago, the most recent suicide. You should see these suicide notes. You should see what the families members have to say. But for the longest time, the argument was, well, it's Mexico. It's Mexicans. Not so much. Let's pull up another article, a recent study. talking about American Mexicans, Hispanic American families of Hispanic descent, Hispanic origin, with a lot of them families in Mexico. Let's see what they say about the border wall and China sending their people to infiltrate cities like Brownsville, Texas, El Paso, Del Rio, Eagle Pass, Hudspeth County, Texas. Right, let's see what they have to say. Newsweek, this is a new article. This is February 20, 2024. It is now. This is current. A new poll says Hispanic Texans want a border wall. Can you go to the, I gave you a little more of the article. There was another screenshot of the article. If you pull it up, I want to read it. Why am I so hard on China? Because it's only America's largest threat. It's only the number one country in the world that publicly stated on American soil during the Biden administration, they sent a delegation to Alaska to meet with Joe Biden. This is months after he took the White House. And he wouldn't show up. Biden didn't show up. And the CCP on American soil delivered an absolute insult. Look it up, you'll see. At a summit in Alaska, supposedly supposed to meet with Joe Biden, who was a no-show, like he is every day, said this: the United States of America no longer negotiates from a place of strength. That's someone coming into your house saying, you're not strong in your house. An absolute blatant insult. We will now take your border. We will buy your farmland. Do you know that Chinese corporations fly the power grids of America? The amount of espionage that's going on, the amount of American intel information, biometrics, your livelihood, your purchasing power, your spending habits, what you do and don't do in the hands of the Chinese. Our largest threat. So why are these young men coming across the border? To occupy territory, to execute a mission, to honor their country and their flag, because you need people in their language that holds their best interest within. This is the Trojan horse. This is the knock on the gate saying, here's a gift. And oh, there's been gifts. Oh, don't for a second think that there's not been some gifts behind the door to the current administration, that there's no quote unquote collusion, favor to China. Why do you think Gavin Newsom visited Xi Jinping and visited all the schools in China? To learn how you run a socialistic, authoritarian dictatorship. Because that's what they want. A class of people that's beneath the royal. A class of people that's the underling that serves the master, which is the big government called the CCP. But oh, just you wait. When you look under the hood a little bit in some of our other articles, which we'll get to in a minute, you'll learn that, wait a minute, there may be a new Chinese revolution brewing. The Chinese people do not want the CCP. And there has been a Chinese revolution where the people revolted against the leadership, and the leadership burnt schools down, burnt books down. You couldn't go to college for a decade. You couldn't learn, but if what they told you to learn. Why did you talk to Dr. Ming Wang, the Ming Wang Institute, a phenomenal ophthalmologist? Talk to him about his parents being professors. Talk to him about what happened. Go watch his movie about what happened to him. How they were not allowed to learn, how his father and mother was professors and they came in their house and burnt books and said, you will not be an educated people. You cannot learn. The Western way will corrupt you. We're going to indoctrinate you. There's a new revolution brewing in China because the people don't want dictatorship. The real people, the Chinese people who are good people, they're family people. They care about their children. but they're being indoctrinated by tyrants like Xi Jinping. And unfortunately, some American players who support it, who fund a lot of this nonsense. Let's read back a little bit on this Newsweek article about what Hispanic origin families in Texas are saying. A new poll found a majority of Hispanic Texans showing support for constructing a border wall as the United States continues grappling with an influx in migrant arrivals at the southern border, because they know it's not Mexican nationals that are coming in. Maybe some. And yes, of course, I know that some come to have a better life. Some come to because they're coming from atrocious conditions. They come and they would qualify for asylum if they go through an embassy. But they're coerced by nonprofits in this country, such as Catholic Relief Mission and such as Border Mission Hope, that's receiving hundreds of millions of dollars. They're told to come illegally. They're told to use the CBP One app. But that's not the young military-age male from China that's coming across the border with a Gucci and a Versace roller case, who's 26 years old, who's dressed to impress. They're coming here on a different mission. What is that mission? That's the question. Exactly what is going on here? So many debates. I hear so many opinions from economists to border security, to national security threat assessors, to politicians. And I hear it all from there's an invasion, there's a future attack, it is an EMP takeover, as we're grappling today with national cell phone outages and understanding that there's corruption. Maybe can you look this up? Can you look at just Chinese corporations monitoring U.S. power grids and how they get information from us? Did not prepare you for that one, Rebecca. Sorry. Do your homework. Look at history. Look at Africa. That's where you need to look. You want to know the Chinese playbook? You look at Africa. Do you know that in Africa, in Zimbabwe, in Botswana, in Mozambique, in the DRC, Congo-Brazzaville, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, in Nigeria, in Cote d'Ivoire, in, name it, Uganda, that they own not only the mineral rights, but they own the futures of those assets. They have gone, corrupt presidents, many of them, and have ransomed their nation's future, gold underground, not mined yet, and have received cash money from China on the futures of the country with an interest rate that's unpayable. They will never be out of debt. China owns them. They own the politicians, and corrupt politicians, fat cats, sit at the top and say, keep me here, keep me in power. My people are now your peasants. Lawmakers, who's the whose publication? CSO, okay. Is there a date on this? February 16th, 2024. Again, not long. This is Joe Biden time, right? It's like, put your head on a swivel. It's Biden time. Let's read this article. Lawmakers see power grid security risk from Chinese storage batteries. We store material on their hardware. Look for me for some more. Look particularly at drone technology. Hold on. Let's read this. The national focus on cybersecurity has been on data breach, including ransomware, which is what precipitated the August 25, 2021 White House cybersecurity meeting. Again, that's Biden. For IT networks, the focus on data breach is sufficient. However, the real concern for critical infrastructures is not data breach, but equipment damage that can cause extended outages and kill people. That should be in bold. The people they're talking about killing is Americans, right? Chinese-made grid equipment is widely used in the U.S. electric grid. Backdoors have been found in some of the Chinese-made equipment bypassing all cybersecurity protections. I mean, can the real Slim Shady stand up? I mean, this is just brilliant. You know what we're going to do? We're going to say, who's our number one enemy? China. Let them make our hardware. And who knows what they bake in there? No worry, we'll put our cybersecurity over it. Oops, there's a back door. Uh-oh, they can shut it down. Oh, they can blow up a transformer. Oh, Americans can die. Oh, they know everything. They know who's using power where. Oh, the next fifth generation warfare is what we're in. Is EMP. It's electromagnetic. It is cyber. It is shutting the world down where your refrigerator won't work because it's smart, air quotes. And who runs it? Well, it was made in China. So who knows what's in it? Heck, the thing may grow legs and walk out of your house for all we know. So let's look and see if we can find anything about power grids and drone technology. U.S. House panel. This is Reuters. This is November 1st, 2023. U.S. House panel seeks ban on the federal purchase of Chinese drones. Okay, pause. We're not talking about Johnny Bravo here in Texas that's buying his drone from China. Right? We're talking about the U.S. government purchasing drones that ends up at times in our military, flying our power grids. This bill will prohibit the federal government from using American taxpayer dollars to purchase this equipment from countries like China. Gallagher said, it is imperative that Congress pass this bipartisan bill, which I believe it did not pass. Check me on that. This bipartisan bill to protect U.S. interest and our national security supply chain. Now we're not just buying hardware and drones and flying drones. Now we're moving massive amounts of people in. Rebecca, will you pull that graph of the influx of people moving? Not just any people, Chinese national males. Women and children aren't coming. These are males. 2021, almost nothing because it's Biden time. Wasn't in there long enough yet. 2022, wait a second. Hello, 2023. By the way, 2023 is when China started rapidly buying farmland. This correlates. There's a move, a proactive partnership, allegedly, right, between the Biden administration, what I would call the constant U.S. government. Some call it the deep state. Some call it whatever you want to call it. I like to call it the constant government because it doesn't change with presidency. It's the embedded forces that work against the United States inside the FBI, the CIA, the DOD, the DOJ, the industrial military complex, the money printing press of the big banks, the top 300 families, the top NGOs that receive money, the Red Cross, the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization, the CDC, that constant government that defies and has defied the President Trumps of the world, that leaked information out of the Oval Office, that gave him false information, that has lied to presidents when the presidents did not fit their narrative, that are lying for the current president. This is what we're talking about. Those are the people that have formed an alliance with whatever it is that they, with the aid or them aiding China, wants to do in the United States, like they did in Africa. You should look into China trying to buy ports in the Dominican Republic, in the Gulf of Mexico. Why? To control the Gulf of Mexico, to militarize the Gulf of Mexico, to have their ships as close as possible, controlling ingress and egress out of Texas, out of Louisiana, barges coming around from Carolina around, oil and gas, oceanic activity, military operations. This is not by chance. It's strategic. There's so much of it, we can't cover it in one show. It's impossible. It is paying off politicians in countries in the Gulf, in South American countries, to sell ports, to sell assets. It's proximity to the United States. And now it is literally just walking them in. Thank you for finding this one. Elise Stefanik, who serves New York's 21st District. Okay? I wouldn't say that Elise and I agree on much. Right? So again, I'm not just bringing you Glenn Beck, Steve Bannon, Donald Trump stuff. Stefanik's Countering CCP Drones Act receives legislative hearing February 15th. This is last week. Last week. So we're not just talking about Chinese coming across the border. It's the combination of the cyber attack, the technology, the money spent, moving people in, buying farmland, buying property, situating, positioning people across this country. You saw the map. Washington, D.C., Countering CCP Drones Act, which Congresswoman Stefanik introduced with a select committee on the CCP chairman Mike Gallagher, who I read you a different article, advanced through committee following a legislative hearing on the bill. This legislation would add Chinese drone company Dajiang Innovations, DJI, as they trade, to the Federal Communications Commission's covered list, the FCC list. They're not currently on it, meaning that DJI, and many of you have DJI drones in your home. They're great drones. I mean, the Phantom, they're great drones. We love them. To rinky-dink around your child's, baseball field maybe, but second you turn that camera on, China's seen Johnny score a goal. That's not good. Not good. It's worse when they fly our power grids. It's worse than they fly our border. It's worse when our government buys them. They would be prohibited from operating on U.S. communications infrastructure. If you're trying to prohibit them, you want to stop them, it's because they currently are. They currently fly our power grids, our power structure. They know where our power stations are. They know where we are vulnerable. No, this is not conspiracy. You've got New Yorkers in politics saying, this is not good. This is not only the DeSantis's, this is Stefanik and others. So what's the end result here? Stop buying drones? Yeah, maybe. Maybe. Open your eyes and understand why we need to shut the border down is what has to happen. Supporting the next president when he says, now we're going to round up anybody who came in illegally and you're going back. That has to happen. Saying, hey, declare who you are as a Chinese individual or a Chinese corporation in this country when you own a business. Do you have ties to the CCP? Who bought that land? Why did you buy that land? And then, for the love of life, stop selling land to the Chinese. And I'm not talking about a Chinese nationalized American citizen, because they're American citizens. That doesn't matter if they're from China, South Africa, Honduras. They're Americans. When you have assimilated and you have become an American citizen, you're an American. We're not talking about the American citizen that has Chinese heritage, because people are going to go, oh, Jaco's against Chinese people. Lie from the pit of hell. You said it. You're a liar. Get behind me, Satan. It's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the CCP overstepping, being allowed to overstep, owning territory in the U.S. for a different reason. We're not talking about the American citizen who happens to be of Chinese descent who owns property. That's not what we're talking about. May I remind you, they're not coming across the border legally. Do you think they're going to show up for the notice to appear? No, they're not. Do you think the fake Social Security number, the fake work permit that they got through the CBP One app, that's not going to last? The next president's going to say, that's null and void. That's not going to last. But yet it's being issued. The largest group coming across now is, in fact, groups from China. That's a long trek. That's not Mexico to Texas. That is not from the Western world to the Western world, to the Southern Hemisphere, from the Northern Hemisphere. Flights, very expensive flights. Becca, do me a quick little favor. Just pull up a flight from, I don't know, Hong Kong to Mexico City. Rebecca wants me to cover something here. You want me to read this? Okay. Let's look at this article. Who's the publisher here, Rebecca? Oh, this is 60 Minutes again. Oh, this is Chinese migrants. Yeah. Sorry, this is back to yeah. Travel. Okay. TikTok explains. I'm with you. I'm tracking. TikTok explains for the Chinese how to make this trek because it's a long trek. College graduate, one man, because they're all that age. They traveled through Thailand, Morocco, Ecuador, Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, on his way to the U.S. Mexican border. Well, from Thailand to Morocco is a flight. Let's look at the flight cost here for a second when Dan can pull it up. $1,600 for a flight. Okay? There's means. There's ways and means. And then there's motive. So a massive conversation that should be at the tip of your tongue in an election year has to be the U.S. southern border. And as Victor Avila told you, we need to start looking at the northern border very quickly because Trudeau is a communist. His ways and means are of communist nature. He's a dictator. The Canadian people are in trouble. Major trouble. The southern border is the issue for this election. Yes, inflation. Yes, all kinds of other stuff. I mean, from drag shows for kids to, but man, we're smashing Satan in the mouth there. Where we are not gaining ground is the border. Because you got the Greg Abbotts of the world that speak Project Lone Star and does zip, that can flash $20 billion like it's nothing and you can't see what it did. You've got the Biden administration. This better be a border election for you. And then I want to go to a bit of a darker, if we could go darker, moment. On average, a Boeing 737 holds 300 passengers, give or take. If tomorrow a 737 was to go down for whatever reason, anywhere in the world, that nation would stop and pay attention. Typically, when those things happen, people lose their lives. I know we had a brave pilot land in the Hudson, and it was amazing. Praise God. Angels carried that plane, and people survived. But typically, if a 737 goes down, people die. Well, what if a 737 fell 5 days in a row? What do you think would happen in the United States? The FAA would shut down travel. They would ground every single American Airlines, Delta Airlines, Southwest, Qantas, they would ground every plane. You would not fly a kite if a person could fit on it. All right, so let me help you understand something. Every single day in the United States of America, 300 people die from fentanyl poisoning. So it's the equivalent of a 737 falling every day, and you don't hear a thing about it. And where's it coming from? The southern border. All of it. None of it produced in the US. Who's making it, you may ask? I don't know. That's a good question. China. China is the world's manufacturer of carfentanil, fentanyl, all the different forms of fentanyl. China is the organization that has a cahoots with a cartel to blend it into Adderall, toothpaste. We found fentanyl in counterfeit toothpaste coming across the US border. China is attacking America while we watch. 300 Americans die a day from fentanyl, and we can't get this border to be shut down? 300 Americans? That's not just the car thefts and the violence on police lately. We don't even have time to play you those videos. You see it on social media. 300 Americans, and by the way, most of them are youth. This better be a border conversation. It better be a China conversation in this election. You're voting in a week. For most of you, early voting is open. You're going to go vote today. Think China. Think open border. Think 300 American lives lost per day before you cast that vote. I don't care what your grandfather voted. We're a 4-generation, 40-year Democratic family. Change the family. It's not the party your grandfather voted for. Whether you liked him or not, Kennedy did not say bring fentanyl. Kennedy did not open the border. Kennedy did not say China buy farmland. Kennedy defied what they wanted the party to be. Maybe that's why they did what they did to Kennedy in Dallas, Texas. Maybe that's why they did what they did to Marilyn Monroe. Because they started speaking the truth. Not conspiracy. It's not the party it used to be. You can take the party name and throw it to the wind. The people in that movement, that lead that movement, do not align with the average American. They do not. Because they don't care about your children. Jaco, how can you say that? From an open border, and okay, 300 people die from fentanyl, and most of them youth. No. They're also the party that brought drag shows for kids. They're also the party that indoctrinating children in the classroom. They're also the party that lied to you through COVID. They're also the party that told you that a kid can make choices that's beyond a child's ability. They're the party that opened the border. They are the party that's welcoming China. So please, this is not about any particular president, but it is about not having this president. And it's not just the president. If you think for 1 second Barack Obama is not involved in the current White House, you are sadly mistaken. He telegraphed it for you. I don't know. Could you research the YouTube clip where Barack Obama in an interview says it would be great to have a third term but not actually be in the White House? And he had his wish. The constant government runs the current administration, not Joe Biden. Joe Biden has a hard time remembering people's names and his wife's name, and it's sad. It's sad. It's abuse. McConnell. There's a time to hang it up. When Brett Favre figured out my arm's going to fall off if I throw another football, he retired. But no, unless the pawn is useful.
Under our Constitution, I cannot run again. I can't run again. I actually think I'm a pretty good president. I think if I ran, I could win. But I can't.
There's a clip here where President Obama jokes and he says it would be great to have a third term and not actually be in the White House with responsibilities. And so he has a third term. Let's not give him a fourth or a fifth, because it's not just him. It is the Charles Schwabs of the world. It's the bankers of the world. It's anybody and everybody that does not have the American family as their focus, who don't care about your child and your child's future. Have you looked at the Department of Education lately? It's an abomination. Meaning it's from demonic origin. They don't care about your family. Come on now. For a second. Where's the proof? Show me. Show me. They don't. And anybody that does not care about the individual American does not care about this nation, because that's where we are. We are a collective body of individual citizens with rights. All men, in all caps, by the way, men in the Constitution, as written by the founding fathers by hand, created equal with a right. They don't care about that. It's their agenda on their terms, and you're a subject. Well, to us fighting human trafficking, you're not a subject. You're the focus. It is about liberating people. It's a search and rescue mission for us. It's about every single human being discovering their identity in God, their purpose on this planet, having the opportunity as a child to dream and live and thrive and contribute and help build this nation, expand this nation, take that Constitution that was written on the Word of God. So with that in mind, I want to encourage you to go to some organizations where you can take your family and teach them some things. Would you pull up some of the websites that we can send people to, please, Rebecca, to show them where they can go? Hillsdale College teach Americans how citizenship and free government are under attack with free online courses. Free. American citizenship and its decline. Go to Hillsdale College and see. Give me another one, please, Rebecca. Let's pull up a couple books. The Dying Citizen. Look into this book. For the fathers out there, read this, please. How progressive elites, tribalism, and globalization are destroying the idea of America. What we were founded upon, what we ran away from, a tyrant king, to establish a land under God with a set constitution and a Bill of Rights. Let's go to Wall Builders, which is my absolute favorite. David and Tim Barton, Wall Builders. Glenn Beck with Mercury Foundation. Wall Builders teaches a course. Go back to the top for me, please. If you go to Wall Builders and you click on resources, you're going to come to the resource page. And then there is protecting private property. There is Christian rights and liberty. The founding fathers on Jesus, Christianity, and the Bible. And by the way, the Bible is the most quoted, most cited document to the Constitution. If you scroll down, there's cases like Stansbury's Elementary Catechism, Constitution 1828, Civic Ignorance on Display, Recommended Reading List, Revisionism, 10 Commandments and Displays, Test Your Knowledge, John Quincy Adams, How Much Do You Know About the Constitution, Benjamin Rush, on and on and on and on. Take your children and make this family activity and dive in there and sign up for the courses. Come tour the facility, tour the vault. Hold the documents in your hand. See what the men wrote for themselves. With the support of their wives, by the way. They don't get enough credit. The wives of the time of the founding fathers that supported them, that stood with them, that spoke into their hearts, that spoke into their lives, that contributed. Not just the pensmen. We have a duty as American citizens to uphold morality because this Constitution, this law was written for a moral people. Please watch Sex Nation. Okay. Go to our website, helpjbm.org. Help us fight human trafficking. Order Storyville coffee. I know you drink coffee. We are the most caffeinated society on planet Earth. I think it's 5 billion cups. Did you guys know that? It's 5 billion cups of coffee consumed a day. Right? So if you're going to drink coffee, why don't you help us save children from sex trafficking? Help us put predators in jail by drinking coffee. Drink Storyville coffee. Go to storyvillecoffee.com. No special code. By ordering Storyville coffee to your home. #1 roaster in the United States. Phenomenal coffee. You can curate your own package. It comes to your house. It's excellent. Buy the Freedom One brewing system, which is a French press system. It's unbelievable. When you support Storyville coffee, you directly put money into rescuing a child from human trafficking. Thank you, Storyville Coffee, for supporting us. Thank you, Patriot Mobile. Thank you, Wall Builders. Thank you, Glenn Beck. Thank you, Mercury One, the champions of the world. Thank you, Jaco Booyens Ministries, for supporting this show. Thank you, Good Ranchers. Check out goodranchers.com. Go get you some beef that's American raised, grass-fed, grass-finished, the greatest beef I've ever had. We appreciate you. God bless you. Vote. It's not just your right, it's your duty. Do not for 1 second think, well, can we win? Yes, you can. But God. When his people will move, he will move. We humble ourselves, we repent, we turn from our wicked ways, and the Lord will hear our prayers and heal our what? Our land.